Rouge. So,
Yeah, we're about,
but since that was open one lane,
It's a legacy
Hassle for you once in a while.
or something like that.
Yeah, but yeah, Connor,
so I go out and then I go on 30 and get off and come down on 15.
Well, yeah,
It's like,
Okay.
to the other side.
You got a
of town
minute.
and come back in, or just depending on where
going
I'm
by
going.
that cloth, just because it's visual.
Yeah.
I'm going by Apple time.
By Apple time,
6:59.
it's about
Yes.
time.
So most of the time, we just drive up 15 till we get
Exactly.
up there and catch that little side road.
Yep, it's perfect.
Yeah.
And going that little angle road by Bell Tower, that's the perfect way to get in.
Call the April 7th council meeting to order. Begin with an invocation. Please pray with me. Father God, as we take a moment to acknowledge you, I thank you for the many blessings you've given the citizens of Warsaw. I thank you for the dedicated public employees who serve in order to make Warsaw a better place to live, work, and play. And I pray now that you will be with this body as we deliberate business before the city. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Lynn, if you'd note that Mayor Gross, council members Clondaris and Finch are not in attendance. First order of business is the approval of the minutes. And as you review them, I'd like to take a moment to thank the mayor for entrusting me with the opportunity to preside over this meeting. He's currently out of town enjoying his first full week of vacation since taking office. A couple of notes as we proceed. While I am presiding over this meeting, I remain a council representative for the citizens of Warsaw. In that capacity, I'm still responsible for voting on every item before us. However, I have been advised that I should not initiate or second any motions. I would also like to point out that anything voted on tonight will require 4 votes to pass. So get that out of the way. And now I'd like for you to consider the minutes.
Having read the minutes, I'd make a motion that we approve them as submitted.
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Okay. We'll start out with recognition of visitors. We have 3 young ladies in the back who are members of Mayor Gross's class at Grace College, his government class. Welcome. I hope we live up to your expectations tonight. Let's see, I believe there are no oral or written reports at this point. Is that correct?
I don't see any. I don't have any.
You know, I guess maybe this might be the best time for me to do this as well, since it is a report, it's just verbal. Take the opportunity to provide an update on the opioid committee. In January, I sought input from council members on how we should proceed, and I want to thank those of you who shared your thoughts. In early March, the mayor and I had a brief discussion and reviewed a list of many worthy possibilities. This past week, I met with council members Quantz and Clondaris. We discussed key factors influencing the committee, including 1, the substantial amount of money already available and ready to be utilized. 2, the fact that additional funds will continue to come in over the next 17 years or so. well beyond the amount of time most of us, I believe, plan to serve. So it behooves us, I believe, to set this up in a way that will live beyond our terms. 3, this is not a taxpayer money, but rather funds received from a lawsuit. So that gives a little different nuance to it as well. We've been given a unique opportunity to make a significant impact on people's lives. With all this in mind, we've decided not to rush the formation of the committee. Instead, we are focusing on developing a vision and mission statement to guide its future direction, especially considering that many of us on this council will not be here when those plans come to fruition. We're also working on establishing a method for appointing committee members rather than selecting all of them ourselves. The idea here is to leverage expertise in areas we are currently not subject matter experts. These areas include physical and mental health, legal considerations, and family and spiritual support. This approach may take a bit longer, but there's no urgent pressure to act immediately. And the importance of this effort warrants taking the time to get it right. If you have any comments or questions, please direct them to Councilor Clondaris or Quantz or myself. And we'll move forward with this. It's, like I say, a unique opportunity, one that I think we're taking very seriously and look forward to. And with that, we'll move on to unfinished business. And the first one up, Jeremy this is going to be the Jeremy show tonight.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, he's got 5 of the 6 points that we'll be looking at tonight. And first one has to do with ordinance 2025-0301, a second reading. Jeremy, floor is yours.
So this is the second reading for the Bella Augustus Residential Infrastructure Finance Loan. This is the RIF loan through the state. It's basically a bond, much like any other bond we do. It's a TIF bond. It'll be paid back by using TIF funds out of the Northern Residential TIF District. It'll be purchased by the states. That's the residential infrastructure loan program that the state put on. So we applied last year after getting permission from the Redevelopment Commission to apply. We applied and we were awarded a little over $1 million, $1,055,000. 30,000 of that will go to the issuance, and the other $1,025,000 will go for infrastructure at Bella Augustus. Randy is here to kind of go once again over the ordinance. If you have any questions, him or myself will be able to answer them. But just a few points. The loan years will be based on the years of the life of the Northern Residential TIF, which I think is like 15 or 16, somewhere in there. The loan amount, I don't have an exact amount yet, but it'll be less or around $100,000, which is about 1/3 of what the TIF district is bringing in cash per year. So we'll have plenty of coverage on that bond issue.
I thought I could take you page by page to the 50 pages. No, I'm kidding. I'm happy to answer any questions. I think Jeremy did a great job of describing it. The ordinance basically approves the terms of the bonds. It has, I think, a not-to-exceed rate of 4% in the ordinance. The rate currently through the IFA program is 3.15. It is subject to being reset, but we expect to close in May before it would be reset at the end of June. So we do believe the rate will be 3.15, even though it does have that not-to-exceed amount. As Jeremy said, the bonds are payable solely from the residential TIF revenues that are being collected from the original Northern Residential TIF area. There's no other revenues or tax levy, anything like that, pledged to the payment of the bonds. Baker Tilly has shown to the satisfaction of the IFA that there's sufficient coverage, as Jeremy indicated, so that because you've been collecting revenues from that for the last 4 years, so that there are sufficient revenues to be able to repay the loan. And the balance of the ordinance really is just approving the various terms and conditions, including what makes the ordinance thick is the form of financial agreement with the Indiana Finance Authority. So by adopting the ordinance, you're approving that as well. And from a schedule standpoint, we are scheduled to pre-close in about 3 weeks, and then we would close in early May on this transaction. So but I'd be happy to answer any questions, or if there are specific questions about the ordinance, I'd be happy to answer those as well.
I know we've looked at a number of bonds recently. If I remember correctly, is this one that does not go against our borrowing ability, our bond ability?
It does not, in the sense that it is payable from these revenues that are the northern residential TIF revenues. So it doesn't count against either the general obligation debt of the city. It also doesn't account against the redevelopment district debt limit as well. The redevelopment commission through the redevelopment district has its own debt limit. The commission can't issue debt without your approval, but there are two separate debt limits, and this bond doesn't go against either one of them because it doesn't have a tax levy or a tax backup associated with it. So you are correct, yes.
Okay, thank you.
For the benefit of the public, can you explain what the proceeds of the bond will be used for? In other words, what it's going to be spent on or how it's going to be used?
So I think, and Jeremy can correct me, I'll start, but the transaction contemplates the bond proceeds being provided to the developer of Bella Augusta through the documents. The ordinance approves a form of financing agreement, a trust indenture, and then the financing agreement with the Indiana Finance Authority. So the redevelopment commission won't be spending the proceeds. It'll be actually the developer that'll be spending the proceeds. It will submit payment requisitions that Jeremy would see and approve, and then they would be submitted to the bond trustee. And I think it's for the infrastructure improvements, but I'll let Jeremy say specifically.
Yes, it'll be very similar. Some of you were here when we did the infrastructure bond for the airport industrial park for sanitary sewer. It'll be very similar to that. They will submit payments for infrastructure that's going in the ground, whether it be water, sewer, or roads. We would review those pay applications and submit for payment.
The only other thing I would say too, the program it's a state-funded program through the Indiana Finance Authority, and so the state has asked for applications and received a number of applications, and the Warsaw project here scored high enough to be awarded funding, and so it's very similar to the sewer utility SRF program. It's the same type of funding and the same type of mechanism. And it is at a below market interest rate, because if the city tried to go out, it might be difficult even for the market for you to be able to sell a pure TIF bond without a tax backup, to get to your question about the debt limit
Yeah.
in the market today. If you had, some communities have done it where if your TIF has been generating the revenue for 15 plus years, you could do a bond, a shorter bond. But for an area that's relatively new, it would be almost impossible to sell this type of debt in the market. So the program created by the state is meant to provide you with access to funding at a below market rate. Some could argue that they could have done it as a grant. It would have negated the need for somebody like me to be involved, or Andy Mauser, Baker Tilly, but we've had those discussions, and that's not the way the state set it up. They're trying to make it a revolving fund loan, so they want to make sure that they get paid back, and this is the way they do it. So I can't criticize them for that.
So basically, the developer will put in the streets and then deed them back to the city. This is just a way
Exactly.
for him to
Just
do that.
typically, like a typical residential
Yeah.
development. The only nuance here is that the funding is coming through this residential infrastructure loan. Yes.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions?
I'll make a motion, we approve ordinance 2025-0301 on final reading.
I'll second it.
We have a first and a second. All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Jeremy, number 2.
So this is the second reading for the Millworks Bond Ordinance, 2025-0302. This was presented at the last council meeting as well. It's a $20 million mixed-use project with a bond to not exceed $4.5 million. It does have roughly 85 apartment units right now with around 35 to 30,000 square foot of commercial space. The project will occupy the entire block of what used to be the old Owens downtown. It's a project that we've been working on for a couple of years to bring some additional residential development downtown. The bond issue will be paid for by the now consolidated Northern TIF District. So that'll be the issuance of those funds within that allocation area, meaning that only the funds generated by the project will pay for this bond. Any shortfall would be on the developer, not on the city. So whatever taxes he generates over the next 25 years will be paid into this bond, but there won't be any other revenue associated with it outside of that allocation area, which would be the specific property of the Owens. Like I did with the other one, I'll have Randy come up and kind of go through the ordinance itself, and then if you have any questions for Randy or myself, I'd be happy to answer them.
I would just add to what Jeremy said, that this ordinance is essentially the same legal structure as the RIF loan, but the significant difference here is that the bonds would be payable solely, as Jeremy said, from the project TIF. So to the extent that the developer doesn't build what they say they're going to build, or it doesn't get assessed by the county the way everybody believes it'll be assessed, or they don't pay their property taxes, then the payments on the bond are not made. And because it's issued as an economic development revenue bond under Indiana Code 36712, there's no responsibility for the city to make any payments. So in the worst case scenario where the developer doesn't pay the property taxes, they build it, it gets assessed properly, but the developer simply doesn't pay the taxes, the bonds would not be paid. They would go into default. The default, as Jeremy indicated, would rest with the developer, not with the city. And there would be no impact on the city's credit rating, and again, there's no impact on the debt limit because there's no property tax associated with this, property tax backup. So again, if the property were to go in default, obviously a default would be bad for the city in the context of having development fail, but it wouldn't affect the city's overall credit rating because this is not a credit of the city, it's a credit of the developer. And in this case, the developer's buying the bonds. There's some prospect, once the project's completed, the developer may resell the bonds, but nothing will change as it relates to the city. If he resells the bonds, it'll be basically the future bond buyer buying the credit of the developer, not the city. So, and Jeremy indicated it's a $4.5 million. It's a not to exceed 25 years. The interest rate is set at not to exceed 8%, but all of that's subject to some negotiation yet, and Baker Tilly will provide a final set of numbers that the developer will agree to, and obviously Jeremy would agree to, but it would be within these parameters. The schedule for this one, assuming you adopt the ordinance tonight, we would just be in contact with the developer. I don't think we have a set closing date, but we would anticipate it being fairly soon, only because the developer is, I think, eager to get started. So, happy to answer any questions.
This is the Millworks project, and we're going to gain about 85 apartment units. Any of this mixed use?
Yes, there's
35.
roughly
Yeah.
3 to 3,500 square feet that would be mixed use that they'll market for. They'd like to get like a restaurant or sandwich shop or something like that in there.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions or things that they'd like to point out? If there are no further questions, I would entertain a motion.
I would move to approve ordinance number 2025-03-02.
Okay. Counselor Dobbins has made a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second with the caveat that this is the second and final reading.
Yes. Thank you for making that point. It is a second and final reading. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it, 5-1. That is the end of our unfinished business. Now we go into new business. And Jeremy, you're back with us.
I am. So you have ordinance number 2025-0401. So we were given a petition, request for annexation a few months ago. We held a public hearing. We did a fiscal plan, approved the fiscal plan resolution, and now we're on the final part of this annexation, which would include the ordinance. This would be the first reading. We'll have a second reading at the next council meeting, after which we'll advertise it in the paper. I guess 30 days after that advertisement, we'll record the annexation, and it will become official. So this is the Kraus Leasing property. They are in the process of tearing down the house that they bought and building a new business there. So this annexation, once it's complete, will be developed. So you just have first reading on the ordinance, and then we'll present it for second reading at the next council meeting.
Does anybody have any questions? If there are no questions, I will entertain a motion on first reading.
Yeah, I would approve the motion for ordinance number 2025-0401.
I have a motion by Jerry Frush. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
And a second by Counselor Dobbins. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it, 5-1.
Jeremy, did you say that second reading would be at the next meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's April 21st.
All right, Jeremy, you have another one.
I do.
Ortho laser.
Yeah, so you have a resolution approving the form of a MOU, 2025-0401. So this is a resolution very similar to some of the other resolutions we've done and MOUs we've done. This is part of our EDIT revolving loan, and we use this for financial incentives for new industries and businesses. We did it for Mentor Media. We did it for MedArtist in the past. This request in this MOU is for Ortho Laser. It'd be a 3-year loan, forgivable loan, with increment amounts of $25,000 over those 3 years. So each year would be at $25,000, and each year would be forgiven, assuming they meet the jobs as outlined within the MOU and the subsequent resolution, forgivable loan resolution. So there's two things: you're approving the MOU, and then the next item would be the actual loan. The project is expected to create 14 jobs with annual payroll over $700,000. And each January, as that increment is paid out and the next one is looked at, we'll check to make sure they meet those requirements. So if they meet those requirements, that loan for the previous year would be forgiven, and then the new loan would be issued. Very similar to what we did with MedArtist and Mentor Media. I can have Randy come up and talk to you about the MOU resolution, and then if you have any questions on that, we can answer that as well.
I don't really have much to add. Jeremy explained it very well. The resolution simply approves the form of the MOU between the city and the company that would provide for the loan, which is the very next resolution. And as Jeremy indicated, the company has to meet certain wage and job numbers. And to the extent they don't meet that, the loan agreement in your next resolution would provide for the loan not to be forgiven and to be paid over a 36-month period. And we have kind of the standard loan terms, which we've used with the city before, that again, if the loan were not forgiven, it would be repaid at prime plus 3% would be the rate. But obviously, the expectation is the company will continue to grow and add the jobs that they expect to add so that the loan can be forgiven. And you're doing this, again, under the authority of the Economic Development Revolving Loan Fund, which you had previously established in connection with some of the other loans. Happy to answer any questions.
You say it's a 3-year loan, but the MOU has 4 years in here. Can you just help me understand?
For over 3 years. The fourth year is the making sure it meets the requirements at the end of its life. So that's where the 4 years comes in.
Okay.
So it's not I didn't want to confuse that there was 4 payments. There isn't. There's 3 payments, and the subsequent year is tracking that last payment to its forgiveness.
Got it. Okay.
For the purpose of minutes, I just want to point out in the top of the letter, you noted that it's $75 million. So it's probably just a typo.
Wow.
Second line, yeah, a couple, too many zeros there.
I thought we better catch that.
Jeremy, could you explain a little bit about what Ortho Laser, what their business is?
Dan Sichter is here with Ortho Laser, and I will leave that up to him so that I don't butcher it. But I've had enough conversations. I have a pretty good idea, but I'll let Dan speak from Ortho Laser on what they're doing, and then can have any questions after that.
Okay, Dan?
Thank you. Good evening. Appreciate you allowing us to come this evening and discuss this MOU. So Ortho Laser is a retail pain management therapy company connected to many of the orthopedic companies here in the community. It is opioid sparing, which is the key deliverable here. It allows people who have had an acute injury, chronic pain, or post-operative to an orthopedic surgery to be treated in a way that allows that pain to be relieved, allows them to get back to life more quickly, and allows their scarring to heal. So it is truly a light therapy. It is a robotic laser that treats the patient over a 6 or 12 treatment cycle, likely over a 2 to 4 week time period. And this will take place in a physical center. One of the things we're most excited about is relocating the headquarters of this company to Warsaw, Indiana, the orthopedic capital of the world, from Rochester, New York, where it was founded, and allowing that company to grow and flourish with retail location here in Warsaw, along with a corporate headquarters and a number of senior employees, but then also retail locations throughout the United States. Our stated goal is to achieve 300 locations over a 7-year time period. And this is being led by a gentleman, Rod Meyer, who's a known entrepreneur in the community. And I had the opportunity to join him in the Nextremity and then MedArtis process that we worked through. So the city's been wonderful to work with. And as we thought about how we might be able to justify the relocation of those headquarters, these funds are incredibly important and allows us to move forward knowing we have the backing of the city and the community, and then can introduce this to the orthopedic community and the orthopedic ecosystem at large. So, any questions?
Is this a therapy that is, people have to have for the rest of their life, or is this something that will help them heal to a point where they don't have pain? Or just out of curiosity
No,
here.
of course, an
Not that
appropriate
anything-
question, and there's much more on the science
Yeah.
if you're curious. Happy to share at a later time. But it is generally done over a short time period. 6 treatment window over about a 2-week time period that allows that inflammation to decrease, and it actually accelerates the body's natural healing capacity on its own. So it will reduce and shorten that time frame of healing. Traditionally, for acute injuries such as a soccer player with a sprained ankle, or someone who's had a knee replacement, hip replacement, there are individuals who have chronic pain, perhaps back pain or something of that nature. They can be treated in kind of a maintenance type of way, but it is ideally a one-time thing that accelerates that healing, allows the healing to take place and be complete. And then until there is some other injury, that patient is free from the ortholaser process.
You mentioned retail locations. Is this administered by physicians or physicians' assistants or technicians, or can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's administered by trained technicians. So there's a director of the center who generally has some sort of medical background, and of course, our technicians are trained in general human anatomy and the process by which they administer the therapy. Often surgeons will be owner partners in these centers. So they will have a referral base of patients that they recommend this therapy to and that it's helped their patients in the past. And there is a general referral process. It is not a prescription, but it is something where as a company we believe it's important that a medical professional has recommended this service to you and believes you're a prime candidate so that we can ensure that that laser, which does not create heat and there's no real danger to the patient, it is non-invasive, we want to make sure a medical professional has recommended this service to you as part of your treatment, as part of your care.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And if I'm not mistaken, it's been used on animals for a number of years. My first service dog had laser treatments for his.
Yeah, similar laser
Arthritis
therapies are used in the veterinary and chiropractic space. We believe at OrthoLaser, this robotic laser and the way it pulses and the proprietary way it delivers the therapy is really what changes the game for humans, but also the fact that it's an environment that feels very spa-like, very care-oriented, very healing-oriented, versus perhaps maybe a less traditional environment, which might not feel as exciting to go to, especially if you are working on rehabbing from a knee or a hip that you've had replaced. So we hope this will allow patients to more quickly get back to life and keep them moving pain-free every day.
So will the actual lasers be manufactured here in Warsaw or just the administration of the company?
It will only be the administration of the therapy. The lasers are manufactured in Italy. There's a company called ASA Laser Technology that creates some of the same veterinary lasers you mentioned, but also creates these human robotic lasers. There's also potential for additional therapies as they're developed to be a part of these ortholaser centers and allow us to treat with laser therapy primarily, but in also other modalities that allow patients to heal. So in the retail center, it will only be the treatment of the patient, and we'll source those lasers then from a supplier in Italy.
So this will be your corporate headquarters here and then also a center?
Yep, that's
Treatment
correct. We want to have a center right next to the individuals who are administering the company throughout the U.S.
Nice.
Of course.
Any other questions? Any for Jeremy or? Nope.
Has a location been picked for it yet?
There has been a location identified. We have yet to sign a lease, kind of pending this discussion here this evening, but 902 Provident Drive, Suite C, which many of you may know is the former home of Joe's Kids. So Joe's Kids had a location there for quite some time before they moved to the west side of town. So be a wonderful location there just along the highway, be very visible, and also allow us to treat patients with automatic handicap doors and a private entrance that will allow them to come in directly to OrthoLaser in the medical campus there near Lutheran Hospital.
Okay. Well, if there are no other questions, I would entertain a motion
I'll make a motion, we pass it.
with the correction of the second line there
And the
being
payback is
75,000.
And the payback is.
Well, we're not passing the letter, we're passing the
The
resolution.
memo's not what you're passing,
That's
so we're
right.
good.
That's right, that's right. Okay, I guess the question to be called is, all in favor? Oh, wait a
You
minute.
need a second.
We need a second first.
I'll second.
Can you tell this is my first time?
It's okay. I'm excited about this opportunity for the citizens of Warsaw, but also just to grow our orthopedic presence, so yeah.
So our first was Jurgen, and Counselor Quantz is the second. Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it, 5-0. Okay. Now for the second part of it, Jeremy.
Yeah, so the next resolution, final resolution for me tonight, 2025-0402, this would be authorizing and approving the form of the loan, or the actual loan, and coming out of the revolving fund that we created when we did the first project a few years back. So that loan fund has been created, it is funded, and those funds will be paid out of that revolving loan fund coming out of EDIT. So this is economic development income tax revenue that would be used for this incentive. The parameters all stay the same. I can have Randy come up and talk about the resolution if need be in the revolving loan agreement, but it's pretty much the same as what we discussed, the 3-year 25,000 and then with the payback if they were to fail to meet the agreement. And there should be a schedule in here at the very back, Appendix 1, that has the number of jobs over the next 4 years and the average annual salary.
Looking through it, it looks like we've got all the dollar amounts, right?
Yeah. It is correct. isn't it?
Any questions? This is a resolution. It only requires one vote.
Yes.
I'd move to approve resolution number 250402.
Motion made by Counselor Fresh,
I'll second that.
and second by Counselor Dobbins. Any further discussion? Okay, so, question? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Passes 5-0. Thank you. And for our last piece of business for this evening, a conflict of interest statement. This is firefighter Kyle Martin. This does not require a vote, just an acknowledgement that we have seen it, that we know what his conflict is. Any questions?
Do you need an official acknowledgement?
The hand vote, the hand raising and to acknowledge, it's fine with me.
Y'all see it, don't you?
I'll see it.
Okay, I see
that you
heads
all
nodding.
acknowledged it.
Heads nodding. It looks like we've all read it. Okay. So that's pretty much it as far as business for tonight. So now, as far as items carried forward, we'll be bringing up the ordinance 2025-0406, the leasing annexation at the next meeting, correct?
Yeah, that will be on the April 21st for second.
And I don't believe we have any other matters we will be bringing forward. Okay, here's the part where we can get into trouble sometimes, asking for visitors' questions or comments. Any, would you ladies like to say anything back there? No? Don't want to say your names so that you get credit for, for class when the mayor comes back?
Just
No?
tell them there wasn't anybody.
There wasn't anybody here? Okay. Well, I want to thank you for coming this evening to our meeting. At this point, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I have a first by Jurgen,
Second.
second by Jerry. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We're done. Thank you.
Mr. President.
Good job, Jack.
Almost made it through. It does, doesn't it?